Plants have some amazing survival techniques. Because they can't move, they've had to evolve in a way that would help them push through unfavourable conditions. Dormancy is one of the most important survival skills of many plants, and without it they would perish. But there is a problem, and it's to do with modern gardening and globalization. Those of us that love plants will often grow many cultivars that are native to a completely different continent. This can mean they've evolved in a different climate too, which may cause some unexpected challenges. In this video, we'll define what dormancy is, how to spot signs of dormancy, and finally how to care for summer and winter dormant succulents. When it comes to succulents and other plants, dormancy is a period of paused growth and development. During dormancy, a plant's metabolism will slow right down, which gives it a chance to survive unfavourable conditions. There are two types: endo-dormancy or predictive dormancy, and eco-dormancy or consequential dormancy. Endo-dormancy happens regardless of growing condition and is kind of a part of plants' programming. For instance, many winter-dormant plants will start going dormant at a certain time every year, even if the growing conditions are still favourable. But in eco-dormancy, plants will go dormant as a result of growing conditions. And this is happening more often as a result of increasingly erratic weather. As a grower, I can see the impacts of this on not just succulents but other plants and the little critters too. For example, this past winter I've seen ants farming aphids when they were meant to be underground. The warm winter weather has allowed ants to come out much earlier than usual. For me, this meant spending a lot of time trying to control ants and all the other pests they farm on succulents. In some succulents, dormancy is quite noticeable, while in others you won't see it that much. There are even species and cultivars that will lose leaves or completely die off above ground. For instance, this Pachypodium succulentum will drop its leaves every winter and regrows them after just 3 months. And this Sedum lineare loses most of its branches when the weather starts heating up. It certainly doesn't like the Australian summer. But many will undergo a more subtle change. Let's quickly have a look at some examples and what to look out for. Many succulents when going dormant will cease growing and kind of close up, some even shrink. The Orostachys ivarengae here goes from a lush super fast growing plant into these beautiful tiny compact rosettes over winter. Echeveria tend to get compact too and often very colourful, as their winter dormancy coincides with cold, which stresses them into colour. The compact growth is quite a common consequence of dormancy in succulents. It's also useful to know that other factors like being root bound can cause compact growth too. So this is the difficult part. Different plants can go dormant at different times based on where in the world you are. But triggers such as shortening of days and cooler weather, in my experience, trigger dormancy for most succulents. You can download charts that will list when different succulents are dormant, but these will not be accurate for everyone. My personal anecdotal experience is that all succulents bar Aeonium and a few small leaf sedum are dormant during the cold months. Some are kind of dormant and still grow a little even during winter. But there are succulents that really dislike heat and stop growing over the summer months. Aeonium are the most well known, but some sedum and sometimes sempervivum can enter dormancy when hot. And if it's very hot and or dry, other types of succulents that would normally grow will slow down their growth. During unfavourable conditions, many may go through eco-dormancy and preserve energy rather than trying to grow. The most common question people have about summer-dormant succulents is whether they should be watered. In my opinion and experience, the answer is yes. Summer-dormant succulents should be watered, especially when it's hot and dry. Despite them being asleep, they can still lose water, and if they lose too much, they can die. I water my summer-dormant plants like the Aeonium along with my other succulents and only do so when the potting mix is dried up. If they are in pots, I move them into a shaded spot or under shade cloth so they're not baked by the sun. Summer-dormant succulents should also not be fertilized or repotted during their dormancy. I'd advise against propagating too, as the cuttings could die. Some can slowly send root, but it's just better to wait till they are actively growing. If you have a succulent that is going dormant in summer due to unfavorable conditions, I'd advise to put it in a bit more shade. 30% shade cloth or morning sun afternoon shade position should make them feel less vulnerable and restore growth. If it's been very dry, keep up the watering. My favorite rule is to water when the potting mix has dried up from previous watering. Succulents that are dormant during winter have slightly different care requirements. In many parts of the world where frost and snow are common over winter, succulents will need to be brought in the house as most are not very frost tolerant. Winter-dormant succulents should be watered very sparingly and many won't need any water at all. If your climate is like mine and winters are mild, you may need to water if the leaves start to shrivel or look wrinkly. We don't get a lot of frost and zero snow, so I can keep all of my succulents outdoors all year round. Last winter was a bit dry and warm, and as a result I had to water a few times. Just like with summer-dormant succulents, repotting, fertilizing and propagating should be left for when the plants are actively growing. If you're overwintering succulents indoors, make sure they get as much light as possible or consider plant growing lights. Despite being dormant, most succulents need bright light to keep compact. If the light is lacking, they can start stretching towards the brightest window and grow leggy. Succulents permanently growing indoors may have their dormancy clock a bit skewed, especially if plant growing lights are involved. Because the temperature won't be as cold indoors, they may grow slowly all year round. My recommendation would be to feed and repot in spring and water once the potting mix has completely dried up. Indoor succulents tend to grow much slower than their counterparts outdoors and usually don't require that much care. And that is it for today. I hope this video was useful, and if you'd like to add anything or ask a question, you can do so in the comments below. To learn more about succulents, hit the subscribe button or go to our website succulentgrowingtips.com. Thank you very much for watching.